You don't sabotage yourself because you're stupid. You do it because you're too smart. Smart enough to justify, to delay, to make it all sound reasonable. And every time you delay, you win in the short term. You dodge risk, you dodge failure, you dodge facing yourself. But the cost? You're reinforcing the exact loop that keeps you from ever starting. It's not laziness, it's a trained reflex. And the problem isn't that you don't know what to do. It's that you keep losing the only 3 seconds that matter. The question is, how do you take them back before the old habit shows up? This video will show you how to break the reflex from the very first click. Welcome to No Brain, Fix Habit. This isn't another motivational channel. We dissect your brain and question your life. Here we mix behavioral science with brutal honesty to rebuild habits that actually last. If you're tired of surface-level hacks and ready to rewire from the root, you're home. Part 1. Why you keep losing to yourself. You didn't fail because you're lazy. You failed because you paused. Just for a second. Just long enough for your old self to step in. That tiny gap, that's where sabotage begins. Not with some dramatic breakdown. A 2021 study from the University of Zurich found that micro-hesitations, pauses under 2 seconds, activate brain circuits linked to risk aversion and behavioral freezing. But with a quiet delay. A breath. A scroll. A maybe later. You weren't defeated. You hesitated. And that was enough. Because your brain isn't waiting for a reason to stop. It's just waiting for an opening. Neuroscientists at MIT, 2022, showed that hesitation disrupts the brain's goal persistence network, lowering the likelihood of follow-through by over 40%, even if the intention was strong moments earlier. And hesitation is the perfect opening. It tells your system, go back to safety. And safety, to your brain, means sameness, even if sameness is miserable. You've trained it for comfort, not for growth. A 2023 paper from Stanford found that the brain evaluates new actions in under 500 milliseconds. If uncertainty is detected, it defaults to past behaviors over 80% of the time. It fills the gap with the most familiar escape. Not what you want, what you always do. That's not failure. That's automation. You don't lose because you can't do hard things. You lose because you leave the door open, just long enough for the old pattern to walk back in. So what exactly happens in that moment? 3 seconds before you sabotage everything. Part 2. What happens in those 3 seconds? 3 seconds might seem harmless, but to your brain, it's a full-blown power struggle. In that moment, the conscious control center disconnects, and autopilot kicks in. You don't decide to retreat. Your brain defaults to the most familiar path. A 2021 Harvard study found that in the first second of uncertainty, the prefrontal cortex downshifts, handing over control to reflexive systems. It's not a conscious choice. It's a reflex trained over thousands of micro-moments. You only think after the behavior has already begun. Your brain moves before you do, and that's by design. Your nervous system prioritizes speed over precision. A 2022 study from UCLA confirmed that the nervous system favors faster but less accurate responses, especially in uncertain, multi-option environments. Every old behavior leaves behind a neural slipstream, and with hesitation, you slide right back into it. No sound, no warning, just a quiet drift into what you've done 1,000 times. That's neural inertia, not decision. And unless you apply a new force, momentum wins. A 2023 Oxford study found that under low-stress conditions, familiar actions are reactivated via default motor pathways in just 600 milliseconds, driven by neural inertia. The issue isn't lack of strength, it's that you don't redirect fast enough. And when you don't redirect, you repeat. Not because you chose wrong, but because you didn't grab the wheel back in time. If you want to win, know this. Losing control always begins with a tiny slip. Part 3. The tiny habits that hijack you. Some actions you don't do, you just trigger them. Like a preloaded script just waiting for a keystroke. Sit in the same spot, glance the same way, and suddenly the brain runs the same old code. No decision, just pre-written response. No willpower needed, because you're not driving. A 2022 McGill study found that familiar action sequences are stored and replayed through the motor cortex, without activating decision-making regions. It's not a habit, it's a packaged reflex. You don't even remember when you started it. You just find yourself already inside the action, like waking up mid-knock on the wrong door, with no idea how you got there, and somehow you always end up back there. A 2021 study from the Tokyo Institute showed that repeated behaviors form reflex loops that bypass conscious and language processing centers, making them feel invisible. That's why you can't notice a bad habit. It doesn't alert you like an error. It runs like infrastructure. Every time you don't interrupt it, it optimizes itself. From habit to reflex to embodied pattern. That's why you say, "That's just who I am." No, it's code, and it's running by default. A 2023 Stanford study found that highly repeated behaviors embed into the sensorimotor system, making the brain unable to distinguish between action and identity. You're not a procrastinator. You're just running a smooth script, too silent to catch. And the smoother it runs, the more it feels like you. But every program can be edited. You don't need to fight it. You just need to know what's clicking it into motion. And if you don't want to keep running old code, you need to insert a new command before it even boots up. Part 4. How to interrupt the pattern before it starts. You don't need to wait for motivation. You just need a new signal before the old reflex arrives. One small act, a built-in interrupt, like a period in an infinite loop of code. Interrupt early or late, and everything changes. But not every action counts. A 2021 Yale study found that interruption is only effective if it occurs before the familiar cue. Afterward, the reflex is already in motion and harder to override. Stopping isn't enough. You need to replace it with something physical, like standing up, clenching your fist, exhaling hard. That's how you break the stream. Not with willpower, but with new sensory input. The simpler the input, the stronger the break. A 2022 UBC study found that clear sensory actions, like sharp exhale or sudden stand, disrupt repetitive behavioral loops 3 times more effectively than internal thoughts. Interrupt once, you open a crack. Do it again, you open a path. Keep doing it, your brain starts choosing the new route. That's when the script rewrites itself. It's no longer reflex, it's reclaiming. A 2023 Columbia study showed that interrupting behavior consistently for 21 to 30 repetitions reactivates the prefrontal cortex, restoring conscious control. But there's no reclaiming if you miss the start point. Start watching for your familiar triggers. Every just for a second is a window. Every time you feel the slide, insert one new move, small move, right time, clean cut. And that's how you begin to rebuild the system from the inside out. Part 5. Make the first 3 seconds yours. You don't need to control the whole day, you just need to own the first 3 seconds, because everything after that is just momentum. Behavior doesn't start with action, it starts with silent permission, and you can take that permission back. Every time you feel the slip, intervene. Don't wait for a feeling, don't wait for the right time. The first move doesn't need to be pretty, just precise. You don't need to win the war. Just reclaim the start button. Stand up, clench, tap the desk. Behavior isn't a promise, it's a signal. Send the right signal, and your brain will realign. And if you break the loop at the right spot, you're not just escaping reflex, you're rewriting the reflex itself. Victory doesn't come from outcomes, it comes from not surrendering in the first 3 seconds. And you can start right now. And in the next video, we won't just break the loop, we'll rebuild it from the ground up. Thanks for being here. I'll see you soon.